today's video, I've created 6 very simple and I think stylish DIYs for Christmas. All of them are budget friendly and really easy to make. First up, I'm making some dried oranges, and you'll see a little later in this video that there are numerous things that you can do with these dehydrated oranges. I'm sure you've seen these being made before, but they are definitely something easy to make and super useful at this time of the year. And as you can see, all you do is slice up a number of oranges. I think I used about 6 for this batch. And then you just place the oranges on a sheet of baking paper, and I've lightly greased it. And they just go into a very low oven for a couple of hours. So the key here is to make sure that the oven is really low, because you are trying to just dehydrate the oranges. You're not trying to cook them. This is what they look like after a couple of hours, and you can really keep them in there as long as you like. I like mine to be this sort of burnt orangey golden colour, but you can decide when you take them out of the oven dependent on how you actually want them to look. And as I said earlier, there are so many different uses for these dehydrated oranges. You can pop them in a glass jar like this and give them as a gift. They're great as a decoration on cakes. They're also really cute little Christmas decorations, and as you can see here, I'm just poking a hole in them and using some twine to create a little loop so that you can hang them on your Christmas tree. They're also great for wrapping gifts. You can display them in little bowls around your home, make Christmas garlands to hang on your Christmas tree or on your mantle. There are so many uses for them, and they smell absolutely divine when they're cooking. So they're just a really Christmassy, simple, easy, affordable and natural DIY. This next project has to be the easiest on the planet, and I really just wanted to show you how effective it can be just to spray paint something, and you can change it and give it a whole new look and feel. So I found these cute little cone-shaped ceramic pieces, and they were actually only $2 and $3 each from a local store. I loved the look of them, but I just wanted them to be white and really Christmassy looking. So it was a very simple DIY by grabbing some of my favorite Rust-Oleum chalked paint, and this one is in linen white. It's a color that I have used before. It's really lovely, just a simple white, and I find that you can spray paint almost anything and change it completely. So I gave these pieces 2 coats of white spray paint. I think the key with spray painting is that you use really light layers. Even if you need to add an extra layer, just don't try and add too much paint all at once, because it does tend to run. Next up, I'm repurposing a couple of things that I already had at home, like these candles that were given to me a long time ago and I just hadn't used them, and this canister that I bought from Kmart, which has sort of seen better days, and I just decided to create a super cute little Christmas candle with it. And the only item that I bought for this DIY is this little Christmas tree that I found for $2 at the local $2 shop. I decided to freshen up the canister here and spray paint it white. It was a marbly finish, but I think I just wanted to make it a little bit more Christmassy and clean it up a bit, so I gave it 2 coats of white spray paint. Then I needed to come up with a way to attach the Christmas tree, which had a bit of a spiky tip on it, to the wooden lid of the canister. So I grabbed this cork placemat. Now this is a placemat that I've had and it was just lying around at home, and I thought I would cut a little circle of cork placemat out so that I could glue that onto the lid and then easily sort of poke the spiky end of the Christmas tree into the cork and glue it on there as well. I didn't really like the look of such a big piece of cork covering up that lovely wooden lid, so what I decided to do was cut that circle of cork into a really small little circle, as you can see here, and then I grabbed some super glue, or I think this one's called Tarzan's grip, but it's basically like a super glue, and glued the little cork circle onto the top of the wooden lid. And then, as I said, that was kind of soft so that I could poke that little metal bit on the base of the tree into the cork, sort of push it in as well as gluing it in place. And I much preferred the look of the small circle of cork instead of the large circle covering the entire lid. And then for the actual candle, I melted down the candle that I already had, and all I did was just pop that in a small saucepan of water. And then when it all completely melted, I lifted out the wick because I was going to repurpose that and use that as well. I would probably recommend gluing the wick to the bottom of the new candle canister. I didn't do that, I just used a little bit of the wax, but it did sort of move around a little bit. I think gluing it would be a much better idea. I ended up using this wooden spoon just to keep the wick in place so it didn't move around as the candle was setting. And this is the final result. I think this candle makes a really cute little decorative piece, or it would also make a great gift idea for Christmas. Next up, I wanted to repurpose this old box picture frame and create just a really simple Christmas decor piece, and this DIY cost me absolutely nothing because I used this frame, a Christmas decoration that I had from last Christmas, and some spray paint. So basically all I'm doing is taking the back out of the frame, and as you can see here, I'm just left with the simple box frame. So I grabbed my trusty can of spray paint to give it a couple of coats of white paint. When the paint dried, I actually played around with a couple of Christmas decorations that I already had before finally settling on this little wooden snowflake with the simple twine loop to hang it on. And so yeah, essentially I just used a staple gun to staple this to the back of the wooden frame. So for this next project, I wanted to create a modern piece that I could use to display some scented pine cones. I already had the black bowl, and I picked up the little yellow ceramic bowl from the warehouse for $1. I originally spray painted both pieces white, but then I just decided that I actually wanted this piece to be black, so once the white had dried, I went in and spray painted them both black. And then I just ran a very thin bead of super glue along the edge of that smaller container, and that was enough just to place the larger bowl on top and stick them both together. I found these pine cones in my local forest, and what is really important to do is pop them in the oven on a low heat for a couple of hours, and that just basically opens up the pine cones. It also tends to dry out any sap that might still be in the pine cones, and it gets rid of any bacteria that they might be harboring as well. So I think I popped them in for about 3 hours on a very low heat. And then I just arranged them in my bowl. I also placed some of the orange slices and some cinnamon sticks just to make it look extra Christmassy. And if you like, you can also add some scented oil to give it a fragrance. And for the last project, I am using some wool and some wooden beads that I picked up from Spotlight to create a simple wooden bead garland. So I decided to start out by making a tassel, and I just did this by wrapping the wool around my phone case. It was kind of the perfect size for creating a tassel, and you just wrap it around as many times as you like, and that gives you the thickness. I probably went a little bit overboard and created super thick tassels, but I wanted the garland to look sort of luxurious and a little bit extra, I suppose. And you will need sharp scissors for this project, and I found this out the hard way. And then I just slid the wool off the edge of my phone and used a piece of string to knot it all together, and this is going to be the top of the tassel. Then I tried to find the sharpest pair of scissors that I owned, and these weren't very sharp, and they just managed to cut through the large loop of wool to create the bottom of the tassel. And then I used another piece of wool and created this sort of slip knot where basically you just take a piece of wool and sort of loop it under, and now I'm wrapping the rest of the wool around the loop, and this is going to be on show, so you want this wrapping to be as neat as possible. And then when you get to the end, you just feed that last piece through the loop and use the little bit at the top to pull that through, so it basically just finishes it off and brings it all together. And then you just need to trim up those ends of the tassel to make sure that they are all nice and even. And as you can see here, these scissors were absolutely not cutting it. What I had to do in the end was grab some super sharp scissors from work to get those ends nice and even. And then it was time to thread the beads on to the string before making another tassel and attaching that to the other end. And it's as simple as that. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more. And if you'd like to see another holiday themed DIY, please let me know in the comments below. But thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye for now.